I'm Jay Barr. My family has been attending Sunrise since 2014. We moved to the area from DC. And for this past year, I've had the pleasure of being the lay leader at Sunrise. So I was asked to talk about a little bit of my faith journey and how that's related to my giving journey. My earliest memories of giving was just, I guess it was probably children's church, what I went to for my family's church growing up. I was probably, 4, 5, 6, something like that. And I remember every Sunday, we'd go through, all the kids would be sitting around, we'd be singing our songs, and there's a time where we'd walk up and we'd put money in the little plate. That money came from my parents' pocket right before I went in there. It's like, oh, I need money for children's church. But they did instill in me, this is a habit that you do, that you give to God. That was, obviously a long time ago. Full fast forward to when my wife and I, so we were childhood sweethearts. We went to high school together, and we moved away. And as so many people do, we moved away, and we also kind of lost contact with not just our childhood churches, because we both attended churches back in our hometown, but we moved away and just kind of lost contact with church altogether. For the first couple of years of our marriage, we're busy, we're doing school, we're working full-time jobs. We just didn't make time. And it wasn't until we had our first house, it was a townhouse we were renting, and there was a United Methodist church that was nearby. And I don't remember what it was that got us to go and make the move and actually attend the church, but one Sunday I remember being there, and I can distinctly remember when I'm sitting in that church, there was this feeling of peace. There was something about sitting in that church, even just for an hour, and I can still get teared up now thinking about this sense of peace that is washed over me sitting there. And I also remember, as one does, the offering plate comes around and we put something in. Now, at that time, it was probably more like spare change. I had a 5 or a 10 in my wallet, and I pulled it out and I put it in the plate. There was the Stewardship campaign, as hit every fall. But this was the first one I can remember, and I'm really part of a church now. I feel like that is my home church now. We had the task of taking this card home and thinking, what are we going to be offering of ourselves? And part of that also was not just financially, but also in service. And so Shane and I were looking at the card, and we're thinking about it, and we pray about it. We debated over how much we could give, and it was thinking, how much can we give? And it didn't really hurt us, but is how much could we give to the church? I remember the next time the Stewardship campaign came around, our thinking was changing. It wasn't so much, what is it that we could give without really noticing, but it was more, what are we called to give? And not just in money, but also with our time. I do remember one presentation from their stewardship campaign at that church. And one thing he did, and we don't budget this way, but I really loved the image of what he described of he would take his money every week or every month, if you're on a monthly budget, and he would take that in cash. He would take that money and he would separate it, and he'd have little envelopes. And his thinking was, okay, this is my envelope for God, and here's my envelope for whatever. But he talked about how that money that he got, the first thing he did was he would take that money and he would put it in an envelope because he was paying God first. There was something about that has stuck with me ever since. It's really important as part of your spiritual life to get into habits, whether that's daily prayer, regular attendance to church, being in communion with those of faith, serving others, or giving. One thing I know for sure is that everybody's journey here is going to be different. My journey is going to be different. It's different even from my wife's, and she was along for a lot of the journey. I'm really glad that my parents got me started with the habit of giving early. I'm even more thrilled that we were able to return to that later. That commitment to God helps us keep involved with the church, helps us to be able to give back more, and it keeps us on track. How can your habits help reinforce your spiritual growth? We have this pledge card coming up, and I'm going to choose to go with the physical one. I want to see the card. I want to write down. I want to, Shane and I are going to sit and talk. We're going to pray about what we can give, and we're going to write down our pledge on that card and hand it in. I want to physically place it in the plate, because there's something about walking up together with my fellow Sunrisers, knowing that each and every one of us, this is part of our commitment that we're making to the church, to one another. I'm committing to you that I want to be there to support you, and with you to help the church support all of us and all those around us. And so just consider, as part of this process, can you build up habits of intentional and regular giving in all the ways, in our prayers, in our presence, our gifts, our service, and our witness?